Geek Stackers, we are back to talk about some comic book goodness. So, what do you got in your hand over there? What book do you have?
In my hand? Batman #2.
Was a good book.
How to find out for people to get this?
Yeah,
last
so
week.
I'll start out by saying Thinking Critical had a good video. If you want a critical take on Batman #2, I will point you to Thinking Critical's channel. I have a different take than his on the book, but I understand why he has the take that he has, being that he knows more about Matt Fraction's behind the scenes beliefs than I do. I don't know much about Matt Fraction, whether he leans right or left. To me, those things are irrelevant if you can write a good story. I've always said this, and I'll lead with this. No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, your beliefs will work themselves out in what you produce. You can't avoid that. I'm a Bible believing Christian. If I wrote a comic book at some point, some of my beliefs are going to come out in my writing. I don't mind that as long as what you believe is not shoved down my throat. And Matt Fraction may be someone who leans politically left. I don't know. But I didn't feel like whatever he put in Batman #2 was force-fed. Now, again, Thinking Critical has another viewpoint on that, and he may be right. So if you want a critical take on this book, his channel might be the best channel to go to for a critical take. My take was more of, I believe, an objective look at the book itself and whether it was enjoyable or not. What do you think?
I think he's wrong. I think he's emphatically wrong. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he was saying about the book, right? Because the book makes sense in the wider berth of information about Batman and the type of stories that are told in Batman. And the stuff that he was saying seemed...
Move your mic closer.
Oh, sorry. The stuff that he was saying seemed like they were made on unfounded grounds. Like, it's like some of the things people were saying about the Superman movie, right? That's kind of how it felt when he was talking about this, where I'm like, okay, if I was somebody who didn't really know too much about Batman, I would say the things that he's saying. But the problem that he had with like the whole corrupt cop thing going on and the cop shooting the dude that was running away, like, have you not read any of Long Halloween?
I'll give some defense of Thinking Critical. If I don't know anything about Matt Fraction, but from what Thinking Critical was saying, Wes from Thinking Critical, if you're not following his channel,
He's a good channel.
But
I don't agree with him on this.
He knows enough about Matt Fraction that he can see his, I guess, leanings on police officers in the book. Why it wasn't a problem for me is because Vandal Savage, being the police commissioner, and I said this on my independent video on the Thinking and YouTube channel, go follow it. What Matt Fraction did is he's crafted a world where Vandal Savage is the police commissioner. Now, what we know about people is most people have, if unchecked, they have desires that they will allow to run wild. We know that there are police officers who are decent, but if they had a corrupt police commissioner and they were given the opportunity to go wild, they would. Yeah. And that doesn't mean all police officers are bad. That's just human nature.
My only pushback against that issue with what Matt Fraction is doing, Jim Gordon shows up in the first issue of this run.
He does.
And he's characterized just like Jim Gordon is always characterized, the good cop.
Yeah.
The great cop. Yeah. Just like the partner he was with. And there's even a good cop in this interaction between the bad cops. So I'm not going to take that. I think that Matt Fraction's personal political leanings aside, that's fine. Right? I don't really care. It doesn't seem like he's throwing it in our face with this one. So that's why I'm just going to say I think he's emphatically wrong. I think he's right about a lot of things, Thinking Critical. I don't have a problem with him. Very cool guy. But I just don't. I was flabbergasted by his take on this comic book, I'm going to be honest.
I wasn't necessarily flabbergasted, even though I didn't agree, and I enjoyed the comic book, excuse me. So I just wanted to get that out the way.
Yeah.
Because I know there will be somebody in the comments that will say, what do you mean this was a good book? This book was trash for this reasons. I understand the reasons to to be critical of the book. And I think the reasons are valid. I will say I think they're valid. But I think the book is an enjoyable book.
I can agree that over the last 10 or so years, the, let's say, galvanization of comic books in a certain direction has led a lot of people to be very skeptical when going into stories. I can understand that. But don't look a gift horse in the mouth. This is probably one of the best Batman comic books we've gotten in a good while. And you're kind of looking this gift horse in the mouth like, oh, this is terrible. And it's like, okay, if you keep having this reaction and stuff like this, we're never going to get good Batman stories ever again. That's my perspective. But I can understand. Like, I can understand how you can be like, oh, this is bad, blah, blah, this and that. Because somebody who's like, this political leaning is writing it, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it was a legit reason. So, but anyway, with that said, I will say that the book read well. And one of the things I commented on my YouTube channel is that if you have not read Batman #1, it would not have affected your ability to follow this issue right here. You could have not read that one. And it seems like this is the direction Matt Fraction is going in, where he wants each book, though connected, to in some ways be a one-shot.
Something that I liked. It kind of reminded me of like reading some detective comic books or like urban legends, Batman urban legends.
Okay.
Whereas like there's some stories that are like in detective comics, there are some stories that are connected. There are some stories that are like single one-offs, right? But they still feel somewhat connected, and it's pretty good. And I think that's the direction that he's going with this, and I'm liking it. I think I have a lot of theories too about this run, but that's a later on issue. But yeah, I think it's really good. And the fact that like I could hand this comic book to anybody that knows anything about Batman and they could read it by itself and be like, wow, pretty interesting interaction between Batman and whatever is going on.
Yeah, it'd be a good read.
Yeah.
I loved the opening scene of the book where you have a flashback of Batman training Tim
on how to drive
a stick so he'll know how to drive the Batmobile. And you see Damian Wayne pretty much being
Damian Wayne,
being a jerk. He's being a jerk. I'll go and show some of those panels. I think these were good panels. I like the fact, and I always say this, I like the fact that not Matt Fraction, Jorge Jimenez knows how to give you just enough detail, but not so much detail that you lose what he's conveying in his image. And there's very few artists can do a lot of detail and still have you understand what's going on. And very few artists can give you a little bit of detail and vague enough to where you're like, no, I get this whole panel.
Yeah, he's like I think he's in the same camp as like a Dan Mora, but then it's almost like he's my generation's version of like a Jim Lee. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think Jim Lee's in a camp of his own, and the type of style that he was doing back in the day is definitely unique. Where you have like
unique.
And there's people that are like Jim Lee in that same class too. And I think that artists like Jorge Jimenez, Dan Mora are kind of in that same vein of like, okay, yes, the art can be more stylized, but you can still have detail in it. There's a lot of artists that will just stylize their art with like very little detail, and I'm just like, ugh. But it's Jorge's been one of my faves for a while. This dude is the GOAT.
He's been knocking it out. So there is this book picks up where the last book left off, where
I guess like a few minutes before.
Yeah, it does, because it shows you what happened before. There's a truck driver that's been killed. There's a lot going on. The dudes that robbed the truck, they're trying to get away. The cops pull up, and this is where Robin shows up, gets one of the criminals, knocks him down. The police show up, and of course, Batman and Robin have no friends on the police force at this time, especially with Vandal Savage being the commissioner of all police. You see, and here's the thing. Here's the thing about corruption in Gotham PD. This is not new. The Gotham PD has always had corrupt police officers. This has been a theme throughout Batman. So that concept in and of itself is not new, which is one of the reasons why, if you are going to deal with police corruption in a comic book, Batman is the best book to do it in.
Yeah. Either Batman or Green Arrow.
Yeah, yep. Two books that if you're gonna address that issue, these are the books to do it in.
Yeah,
and I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it. I think the way Robin showed up. Oh, I gotta show this panel right here. This
yeah.
is this
I was gonna
one.
say, because we were talking about something. I don't know if we were talking about it on camera or off camera, but Jorge Jimenez's ability to be able to layer characters and the designs of certain characters throughout multiple panels, like you can kind of see it drags on to like a panel to the left and also a panel up, where like that sense of perspective looks really like intentional and it pops out at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does.
Like it's a way that he makes his art visually pop without having to add too much more detail to what he already did. And I'm just like, this is heat. It's very few people that can execute this at this level.
What did you think about the tightly self-contained story with the two police officers? So you got two police officers. You have one cop that is completely corrupt, sold to corruption. Yeah. You can tell.
And he kind of looks like Harvey, what's his face? Who's the cop that's always working with Jim Gordon in Batman Year One?
You talking about Two-Face?
No, not Harvey Dent. Oh, I'm thinking of somebody else.
Okay.
I'm thinking of somebody else.
But then you get the other police officer who is, it's not that he's not corrupt.
Maybe he doesn't understand.
He has a little bit more
corruption goes.
Right. He has a little bit more of a conscience. He's like, well, maybe we can't or shouldn't do this though. Like maybe this is off limits. But the corrupt police officer, he's just ready to go at it. Even shoots the criminal in the back as he's running away. I'm like, oh goodness, they are really going for it in this book.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you see the fighting capability and the absolute grit of Tim Drake in this book.
Well, because you know who trained him.
Yeah, but I mean, even though we know who trained him, not all Robins are equal. I'm saying not all Robins are equal. So you're saying all of the Robins are equally trained?
No. Well, actually, no, they're equally trained, but their skills are not equal.
Right. That's what I mean.
I will get.
And that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Not all Robins are equal. And you see why Tim Drake shines. He shines because this is how I feel. You might disagree.
I will definitely disagree.
Viewers out there may disagree with this. I feel if there was anyone who was going to pick up the mantle and be as equipped as possible, I think it would be Tim Drake.
No.
Okay.
No. And I think it explores this in Battle for the Cowl as well, right? Though Tim Drake is the best detective out of everyone in the Bat family, Batman included, I don't think he could pick up the mantle. The only one that I think could, two people, Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne.
Why? Explain.
Dick Grayson is able to do the same thing that Batman does, but in a different way, right?
In what way?
So people respect Batman because they fear him, right?
Okay.
People respect Dick Grayson because they just respect him as a person.
Right.
And he's able to do that. But there is a story where Dick Grayson became Batman and convinced a good amount of people. Like the only person that knew he wasn't Batman was Batwoman.
I'm not shocked.
And I think that Tim Drake as Red Robin works because his character is so unique to him that I couldn't really see him being Batman or taking up the cowl. And I think that Damian Wayne is in his own right, understands the somewhat feudal brutality that you need to be Batman to instill fear in these people, right? And, being trained by Bruce, he's toned it down, so he's not killing people, but he still is able to, have that darkness within him. I don't think that's something that Tim Drake has. And one of the main issues that Dick Grayson struggled with, and he even talked to Alfred about this as he was Batman, was like, I don't know if I can really epitomize this darkness that Bruce has in him. I don't think I have that. You know what I mean? And I don't think that Tim Drake does either. But I think the only person that gets close to that without going too far would be a Dick Grayson or would be a Damian Wayne, because Damian Wayne does have that darkness. The reason I wouldn't say Red Hood is because Red Hood has that darkness but unmitigated. So
you said something in your beginning, which is why I go with Tim Drake. What did you say about his detective work?
Second only to Well, actually, he's better than Batman.
Okay.
And Batman has admitted this.
Okay. And here's the thing about Batman. we love Batman's fighting capability.
Yeah.
It's unparalleled.
Look.
But hold on. But what makes Batman so intriguing is stories like Court of Owls, where you see him figuring things out. And Tim Drake has that.
Okay, but
so,
you're saying that like the other characters don't.
It's not that they don't. It's not that they don't. There's certain things. Okay, I'll put it this way. I could train you to be a magnificent fighter, one of the best and one of the most brutal. I'm not saying you will beat everyone, but I'm saying you could take a person of somewhat decent physical prowess and train them to be one of the best fighters ever. You cannot train intellect. You can't train intellect.
Look,
you can teach and instruct a person to think in certain ways.
Here's where I'm going to give you some pushback. Batman isn't just a detective. Batman is a symbol.
I agree with you.
Batman is a symbol. I don't think that Tim Drake has it in him to epitomize that symbol. There's a reason why when Tim Drake went to go off on his own, he kept the monochrome of Red Robin.
No,
right?
look,
that's him. That's his thing, and that's his, and that's the reason why I couldn't see him. It's that and not having that inner darkness that Bruce has, right? And his father died, right? And I think it was like Joker War or something like that, and that did happen, but he didn't have that darkness before he became Robin. You get what I mean?
I can give you that as far as the darkness, but I think
you're going off of it more of like a detective thing.
And not just that.
I think that's fair. I think either could be fair, right?
Right.
I think that Batman is both the greatest detective in the world and a symbol. A symbol of hope for those who are, and a symbol of fear for those who deserve it. So, and I don't see Tim Drake doing that. Look, I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but from my perspective, I don't think he's a top candidate. I think top candidate is Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne.
I'll concede on your point about the grit and darkness of Batman.
But I can understand, because I can understand the argument of like he is the other greatest detective in the world. I'm like, you know what? I can't argue with that. It's like him and maybe Question, I think. And so I'm like, it's not a bad point.
This panel right here where they shoot.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Robin is wow. And luckily it wasn't a fatal wound. They shoot him, he falls back down to the ground. It is like I wasn't expecting this. And I know Batman comic books are typically more dark, but it seems like
it came
this
out of
Batman
nowhere.
Gets there really quick.
Yeah.
I almost feel like this is in some ways not the darkest Batman, but it's they're trying to find a way to mix the darkness without going overboard, but getting you to understand, like, yo, it's about to get real. Vandal Savage is the police commissioner. This is not gonna be fun.
And the way that you see like everything kind of happening in this scene from different panels, and they're all kind of woven together into a singular picture. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's great. And I was really taken aback, because it seems like it would be like too much influx of information in one panel, but you get everything that's going on just off a cursory glance, and then looking at the individual panels and seeing what's good, you're like, oh my goodness.
So when the police officers capture Robin, they throw him in the back of the paddy wagon with all of the criminals, and he's handcuffed and he is hurt, and Robin gets busy.
Oh yeah,
Robin gets busy. It's so much so that one of the cops looks back and he's like, yo, this kid is handcuffed and injured, and he's like putting in work.
Nah, he's not handcuffed for long.
And in that kind of encapsulates why I think he's one of the best Robins.
I get it, right? But every Robin has that. Every Robin has an example of something like this happening.
Absolutely,
and has
absolutely. Batman would not have.
Batman would not have trained them if they didn't.
Right. If he thought they didn't have it.
I think that maybe it's more of an argument of like every single Robin is goated in their own right
for different reasons.
Yeah, for different reasons. So I'm not, because I have my favorite. Everybody has their favorite, but I wouldn't really say one is necessarily the greatest. I think that certain ones are better at certain things. Like the best hand-to-hand combat person in the Bat family outside of Batman, Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson. That's second to none, right? Trained the longest, the oldest. the oldest, I'm pretty sure, right? Best detective, Tim Drake, one of the greatest.
So this panel right here, this is a testament to the art of Jorge Jimenez, and this is kind of what I was talking about before. Just enough detail, you kind of lose the background of the paddy wagon and the white of the back of what's behind Robin, but you see him break out of the handcuffs.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm just like, yo, this is fire.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of what they used to have, like the POW panels and stuff like that in the older comic book. Yeah. They do that a good amount now.
They still do it,
but this is like I don't know. It feels like a return to form a little bit.
You know where you see that a lot? If you look at John Byrne X-Men Elsewhere,
I was gonna say X-Men. Yeah,
he does a lot of those panels.
I gotta read that now. I think about it.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it is so good. It is so good. But yeah, so anyway, Jorge Jimenez, he shines.
Jorge Goat Menez.
Matt Fraction does a good job. If you can, like, whatever you think about Matt Fraction, whatever side of the aisle you're on, left or right, that I think. With comic books, look, I make no bones about it. I am more conservative, but I don't hold it against people that have a different viewpoint when their viewpoints show up in their books. Again, as long as you're not force feeding me what you think. This is just part of your creative process. You are who you are.
And I think that's fair when you make the argument. People are like, oh, comic books have always been political. I'm like, yes, that's fair. But it's a difference between talking to someone and talking down to someone.
Right.
And if you're talking down to me with your art, I'm not paying attention to anything you're saying. Now, if you're like, hey, look at this thing right here. Interesting, right? Instead of like.
Yeah. So with that said, I think Matt Fraction does a really good job of skirting that line. He has his thoughts. It shows up in his creation. But what he has created is good. I think sometimes there is a propensity for some to think, I can infuse these thoughts into my creation and it doesn't have to be good because people agree with me. And I can tell Matt Fraction, in my humble opinion, doesn't take that view.
Well, it's like the people that will make, Christian anything and it'll be bad and like, oh, it's Christian, people will like it.
Right. Like, right. Yeah. So this, if you're on the fence, again, I would seriously recommend watching Wes's take, Thinking Critical, on this book. Highly recommend it. But with that said, I would buy the book. Go into it with an open mind, asking yourself one question.
That's if you can find the book.
That's true. Asking yourself this one question. In spite of whatever you think about the creator, is the story good? And I'm here to tell you, the story is good. Batman in this book he's such a fire panel.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This is such a fire panel right here.
That's going to be a Waspio wallpaper.
Batman got his head rocked by a shotgun round in this book. And it was unexpected. I did not see that coming.
Neither did he.
Yeah. And pretty much what happened is the cops are talking amongst themselves. One cop thinks that we need to take these dudes in. The other cop is like, but wait, they're on our side though.
And they just patched us up.
Yeah. But, the other cop is more of a proponent of Vandal Savage. And he's like, no, we need to bring these dudes in. And you have a whole thing go down. One cop tries to shoot Batman. The other cop is trying to, calm the situation down.
He ends up shooting his partner.
It gets volatile. I'll show you one of these panels. It gets super volatile. I was like, oh goodness, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I like that intense action. If it's one thing I love about books like this, the action was measured and it happened right when you needed it.
Yeah, and it's not like it's too grandiose with both the action and the storytelling, right? It's a good push and pull, and I like it. Like the first book obviously didn't have as much going on. Like you thought he was gonna get down to business. As soon as he activated them shock gloves, it ended up being, just Batman like, you know what? This is not the way to do this. And then this one, you just straight to action, full book through. And it's really good. And I think the panel where he's kind of like sitting there with his cape, blocking the bullets. Oh my goodness. That's good.
Yeah, that was really a good one. This is here's the panel where Batman got his got his clock rung a little bit with that shotgun round to the head.
You got to show the one where he's like going like this, with the circle behind him. That's one of my phone lock screens now. It's.
Let me see if I can find
that one right there on the left side. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That. Man.
Yeah. That look. I had to read a digital copy. I like physical copies, so I got a digital copy. I read a digital copy, and I ordered the physical copy from Midtown Comics because my local comic shop was completely out.
They were out. They literally
did not have any.
I think I showed up like 2 hours after they were gone. He said they were gone within the first 5 minutes of them opening. I'm like,
yeah, I think this is a good
camping out the comic book store.
Yeah, I think this is a good sign. In my opinion, this is a sign. This is kind of a sign of the fact that people are actually interested in what's going on with this Batman story, and it's not a fluke. I think people are actually recognizing, oh, this is actually a good story.
Well, people were saying the same thing about Absolute Batman. People were like, oh, they're just liking it because it's a new thing. And I think that this Batman story proves, no, we just wanted something fresh. We just wanted something good. We just wanted something with good art, a good story, and good people leading it. And I think that Scott Snyder at the helm of everything that's going on at DC is probably the best decision Jim Lee could have ever made.
Is he over all of the creative direction?
I think he's one of the people that's over it. Yeah, because he's like this. What's it called? Mentoring a lot of people. Okay, and he's like holding classes on how to tell like good stories in comic books, and he's in charge of the whole DCKO thing.
That's a good sign.
But yeah, I'm like, yeah, Scott Snyder is the perfect guy you want.
I keep saying this is what Marvel needs to do with Jonathan Hickman. You need to put that dude in a creative spot because they're really struggling right now.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a lot. I don't know. One thing I do gotta say is, if you're watching this, Scott Snyder, bring back Damage, man. Bring Damage back, please.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna bring back any of those New Age of Heroes. I liked a lot of the New Age of Heroes. Yeah. I think they were good. I think we live in an era where if something doesn't take off right away, it does not have a chance.
Yeah, because I think
you're not going anywhere with it.
Oh, Damage showed up in something, or something for his character showed up in something else, and I was like, But
yeah, it would be nice. There was a lot of characters from that New Age of Heroes I was like, man, this is actually good. New characters aren't really created often in the big two comic book houses
because they're scared. They're scared because comic books haven't been doing all that well for the past 7-8 years, right? They're finally starting to get out of that funk they had for a while, and they're trying to be cautious and not make anything new. But when you see stuff like the Rippaverse and Eric July that has a whole new universe they're creating, and stuff like Skinbreaker that came out, which we're talking about probably next week. You're just like
Skinbreaker's a very good comic book.
Okay, it's obviously not that nobody wants to see new characters. It's just introducing them in the right way, having the right people telling the stories, and having the correct artists to be able to convey that.
Yeah. I think that's really the only thing that you have to do is make sure that you're giving people what they actually want. Overall, I will say that Batman #2 for me gets a good 4.1 out of 5 pencils. This is a marvelous book. Good follow-up to Batman #1.
Keep it real. I disagree with you. I'm giving it a 4. I'm giving it a 4.8.
No,
I'm giving it a 4.8.
I can see.
It's higher than I give the last one. And I think this art was, I don't know. There was more going on with the art. Not that there wasn't anything going on there. There's so many panels from this one that I'm like, oh, this is being a lock screen. I'm making this one a lock screen. This is like,
I'll tell you why I give Batman #2 a 4.1, and this is being fair. I don't know everything. There are things about Matt Fraction I don't know, and I think Wes's criticism, though I disagree with his premise of the book, I think his criticism is warranted if you've been following Matt Fraction. So I think that's a worthy critique. And the fact that that's something that's noticed, I think that kind of, it takes away a little bit because that would mean if I knew enough about Matt Fraction and if I followed him enough and knew what his leanings were, I would open this book and go, oh, so you're preaching at me this thing. Now, as somebody that knows nothing about him, I think he did a good job of mitigating that, but that's because I know nothing about him. Again, that may completely change if I knew anything about Matt Fraction. So for that reason, I'll give it a 4.1 out of 5 pencils, giving you, the listener, the opportunity to judge whether you think this is a good book or not. I will say, regardless of what you think is push and or not push, this story is good.
Yeah.
It is a very solid story with very solid art. And that's all I have today for Batman #2, a definite worthy pickup if you're looking for a good book. And on that note, we out.